Welcome to another episode of Where Has Needleful Been the Past 2 Months? As usual, I've been working on At the Ends of Eras, an open-world adventure game. That's what I'm calling it now. I've started the vertical slice, which will also serve as a demo on Steam. It'll be a small section of the map with a few different quests for the player, plus the movement demo I already released on itch.io, put together as a little taster for the game. It'll be out May 31st, because if it's not, I'm straight up canceling the entire game. I swear to God I'll do it. I'll fucking do it, dude. I'll quit the game and start a webcomic if it's not ready. That might sound drastic, but it's really a heads I win, tails you lose situation. I'd obviously love to finish the game and show people what I've been thinking about for so long. The setting, the narrative, the way the dialogue's used in gameplay, Jackie's breath when it's cold out, which took way more work than you might think, etc. On the other hand, oh no, what am I gonna do now that my hopelessly overscoped forever game is cancelled? What am I gonna spend every second of every day working on or feeling guilty about not working on? What's gonna keep me up at night in fear? Fear that I'm gonna humiliate myself when the game is a disaster. Fear that I'll look back at this time with regret. Fear that my other ideas were genuinely better and now it's too late to go back to them. All I have now is my career, friends, family, other projects, and library of books and games I haven't enjoyed because I've spent over 1,700 hours streaming this game's development. Also, that's why this devlog is kind of a rush job. I'm not stopping the clock for this. The vertical slice serves as an estimate for the rest of the game's development. If I can't make this small section of the game in 6 months, the rest of the game isn't going to come any quicker. Granted, I have to make a lot of new stuff for the vertical slice. For example, I deleted all the levels last year. Now I've gone ahead and deleted the rest of the world too. I have a deep attachment to the game's original terrain since I spent so much time with it, but it looks like shit and runs at 0.4 FPS in Blender. For the new terrain, I used my big old brain and thought about things like, where should the stuff go, and what would look good? As a result, it's more natural, more vertical, and caters to the game's story better. Don't look at that part, I'll fix that real quick. With that in place, my energy is going into the city the vertical slice takes place in, Crab Hill. Originally named because the hill kind of looked like a crab from an angle the player could never see, now it's called that because it's, red. It's the largest city and capital of the province, which isn't saying a whole lot, but it could hold a few thousand people, I think. I've already spent a lot of time on the quests in the area, so now I'm remaking the place itself. I'm quite happy with how it's going for the most part. I realized I could copy and paste buildings to get a feel for the layout before painstakingly modeling everything to perfectly align with the roads and terrain, only to realize the city is in the wrong place for story reasons. Also, Blender modifiers. Even simple stuff like solidify make editing walls a lot easier. It's made the actual placing of buildings fun and meditative, and that lets me focus more on what the city needs to accomplish. Why is it here? What is the experience the player should have? There are several motivations for the environmental design. I have some local quests and the overall plot of the game already written, so I'm first and foremost designing the city around those. There are areas that should be visually distinct both for lore reasons and to draw the player into associated quests. I need to be deliberate with sightlines to control when the player sees certain things. I merged and split apart various parts of the world to better fit the story. For example, the capital and the city with a train station used to be separate, but there is really no reason for it. I don't actually have that many more examples, but there are a few. Another motivation is a sort of digital tourism, making a place the player isn't, where just walking around looking at stuff is part of the appeal. Crab Hill draws from real cities throughout Central Asia and the Middle East, and I wanted to create a unique vibe. The citadel in the center of the city is loosely based on Agra Fort and the Herat Citadel. It's hard to convey scale in a game where you can crouch jump onto the roof of a single-story house, but rest assured these walls are fucking huge. And of course, the environment should be good for platforming. I call it an adventure game, but the adventuring is largely jumping and climbing. I'm putting this last because it actually is least, at least in the city. I'm not making Super Mario Odyssey over here. I just want going from one place to another to play nicely with the movement as connective tissue between the other mechanics. In general, I've tried to be more intentional with the environment than I was before. One of my big failings with my level designs was I would just make stuff before I actually knew what I wanted, and the end result showed that lack of thought. It's good to make things to explore ideas, but it's another to spend weeks making areas from only the vaguest plan. I still struggle with this, especially in the more platforming heavy parts of the demo, but I'm at least improving, I think. Then there's upping the production value of the quests, making human character designs, integrating better with the main story, adding actual art assets for the environment, fixing all the bugs, improving performance. There's a pretty high chance this will be the end of the game. As of recording, I still have 4 months to make the rest of the vertical slice, but I have my doubts that it'll get anywhere near what I want it to be. There's just too many moving pieces. To fix a 4-second freeze when chunks load, I had to edit the engine and make the navigation system run on a separate thread. That's the type of shit I spend all day doing, instead of working on the story and structure of the game, which are what really interest me. I've been saying this for years now, and it hasn't gotten any better. But perhaps I gravitate to technical problems because I know I can solve them. I'm still scared of the writing. I don't do it on stream and I don't do it off stream. If the game is cancelled, I genuinely might go back to making comics just to try and break my attachment to technology. I may eventually come back to a scaled-down version of the game, though, trying to distill what I really want from it. Like, does it really need a day-night cycle, or NPCs moving around, or a temperature system, or even the open world at all? Well, yeah, obviously.